Hey guys, I am here to do my top 11 books of 2011. I guess a lot of people are doing like top 5 books, but there is no way from a whole year that I can narrow down to 5 books. So I am doing top 11 books, which Laura from the Reading Nook actually said that's what she was doing, and I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. Wasn't sure the way I wanted to do this, so the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to show you the book. I'm going to read the inside flap, and then I'm going to link in the bottom my reviews to each of the books. Because since I read these, some of these I probably read at the beginning of the year, I don't remember exactly what they were about, and I don't want to give away spoilers. So I just figured that's the way I'll do it. So this video will probably be a little long. You can always fast forward too if you just want to see the books, or just look down below or whatever. They're in no particular order. All of these are 5-star books except for I think one, which was one I read recently. So I'm just going to start. I got Jodi Picoult, 19 Minutes. And a lot of books too, and these are ones I just read in 2011. It doesn't mean that they were published in 2011, it's the ones I read in 2011. This one says, Sterling is a small, ordinary New Hampshire town where nothing ever happens, until the day its complacency is shattered by a shocking act of violence. In the aftermath, the town's residents must not only seek justice in order to begin healing, but also come to terms with the role they played in the tragedy. For them, the lines between truth and fiction, right and wrong, insider and outsider, have been obscured forever. Josie Cormier, the teenage daughter of the judge sitting on the case, could be the state's best witness, but she can't remember what happened in front of her own eyes. And as the trial progresses, fault lines between the high school and the adult community begin to show, destroying the closest of friendships and families. This is about a high school shooting. So yeah, this was very good. Very good. And I read, what else? I also read another Jodi Picoult, I think 1 or 2 more Jodi Picoult books that were very good. I love her writing. But yeah, 19 Minutes. Then Across the Universe by Beth Revis. And this, I remember, was a book that I wasn't sure if I was going to like, and I actually ended up loving it. It says, Amy is a cryogenically frozen passenger aboard the spaceship Godspeed. She has left her boyfriend, friends, and planet behind to join her parents as a member of Project Arkship. Amy and her parents believe they will wake on a new planet, Centauri Earth, 300 years in the future. But 50 years before Godspeed's scheduled landing, Cryochamber 42 is mysteriously unplugged, and Amy is violently woken from her frozen slumber. Someone tried to murder her. Now Amy is caught inside a tiny world where nothing makes sense. Godspeed's 2,312 passengers have forfeited all control to Eldest, a tyrannical and frightening leader. Eldest's rebellious teenage heir, is both fascinated with Amy and eager to discover whether he has what it takes to lead. Amy desperately wants to trust Elder, but should she put her faith in a boy who has never seen life outside the ship's cold metal walls? All Amy knows is that she and Elder must race to unlock Godspeed's hidden secrets before whoever woke her tries to kill again. Yeah, this, I was pleasantly surprised that I loved this book as much as I did. And I'm sorry, my nose has been itching like crazy lately. A Million Suns, I think it's called, is coming out 2012, and that's the second one, and I can't wait to read that. Madness, A Bipolar Life by Marja Hornbacher. This is nonfiction. When Marja Hornbacher published her first book, Wasted, a memoir of anorexia and bulimia, she did not yet have the piece of shattering knowledge that would finally make sense of the chaos of her life. At age 24, Hornbacher was diagnosed with type 1 rapid cycle bipolar, the most severe form of bipolar disorder. In Madness, in her trademark wry and utterly self-revealing voice, Hornbacher tells her new story. Through senses of astonishing visceral and emotional power, she takes us inside her own desperate attempts to counteract violently careening mood swings by self-starvation, substance abuse, numbing sex, and self-mutilation. How Hornbacher fights her way up from a madness that all but destroys her, and what it is like to live in a difficult and sometimes beautiful life in marriage, where bipolar always beckons, is at the center of this brave and heart-stopping memoir. Madness delivers the revelation that Hornbacher is not alone. Millions of people in America today are struggling with a variety of disorders that may disguise their bipolar disease. And Hornbacher's fiercely self-aware portrait of her own bipolar as early as age 4 will powerfully change, too, the current debate on whether bipolar in children actually exists. I love anything that has to do with mental illness or anything that has to do with, what the heck did I, oh my gosh, mental illness and addiction. Couldn't think of the word. And addiction. And this was really well written. I do have to read Wasted by her, and I do have that book. I'm sure that one will be just as good, and it's here somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. The next book is Breaking Point by Alex Flynn. This is a really tiny, short book here. We may need to plant a bomb in Old Lady Zeller's classroom. These simple words will change Paul Richmond's life forever. Paul is new to Gate, a school whose rich students make life miserable for anyone not like them. And Paul is definitely not like them. Then something incredible happens. Charlie Good, a star student and athlete, invites Paul to join his elite inner circle. All Charlie wants is a few things in return, small things that Paul does willingly. And then one day, Charlie wants something big. How far will Paul go to fit in? I have not read any other of Alex Flynn's books. And it's a lady who writes these. I do have some of her books, which if you watched my bookshelf tour, or it should be bookcase tour, that I did the other day, I do have them. I think I have one or two, I think one of them up here. And of course I'm trying to find them and I can't now, or find it. But yeah, I have heard a lot of good things though about Alex Flynn, but Breaking Point was one that had really good ratings. This is another book that I wasn't sure about. I'm not really big into the paranormal books, but I loved this book, Unearthly by Cynthia Hand, and this cover is beautiful. Clara Gardner has recently learned that she's part angel. Having angel blood run through her veins not only makes her smarter, stronger, and faster than humans, a word she realizes that no longer applies to her, but it means she has a purpose, something she was put on this earth to do. Figuring out what that is, though, isn't easy. Her visions of a raging forest fire and an alluring stranger lead her to a new school in a new town. When she meets Christian, who turns out to be the boy of her dreams, literally, everything seems to fall into place, and out of place at the same time. Because there's another guy, Tucker, who appeals to Clara's less angelic side. As Clara tries to find her way in a world she no longer understands, she encounters unseen dangers and choices she never thought she'd have to make. Between honesty and deceit, love and duty, good and evil. When the fire from her vision finally ignites, will Clara be ready to face her destiny? I loved this book. Loved this book. And like I said, I'm not really one to really get into paranormal books, but I loved this book. Another book that I really loved, but I did not read in 2011, was Paranormalcy. At least I don't think I read it in 2011 because it's not in my books here. That was another really good book that I didn't think I'd like and I loved. The next two books are by the same author. And this author is very well known, and she has high ratings on every one of her books, but these two were my favorites of hers. Glass by Ellen Hopkins. And Crank was too, but I must have read Crank in 2010, and that's why it's not in my pile either. Crank, Glass, Crystal, whatever you call it, it's all the same. A monster. And once it's got hold of you, this monster will never let you go. Christina thinks she can control it. Now with a baby to care for, she's determined to be the one deciding when and how much, the one calling the shots. But the monster is too strong, and before she knows it, Christina is back in its grips. She needs the monster to keep going, to face the pressures of day-to-day life. She needs it to feel alive. Once again, the monster takes over Christina's life, and she will do anything for it, including giving up the one person who gives her the unconditional love she craves, her baby. Now, of course, this is the sequel to Crank, and maybe it gave away some spoilers, but I don't think so. If it did, I apologize. If you thought it did, I apologize. But amazing, amazing book, just like Crank, and this is Crank. Crank has the black cover. The next book by Ellen Hopkins that I absolutely loved, that I read in 2011, was Identical. And all her books, if you do not know, are written in verse. So they may be long, but they're really quick to read, but they're also deep. So because they're deep, they may not be as quick because you have to absorb so much more of it. Do twins begin in the womb or in a better place? Kaylee and Rayanne are identical down to the dimple. As daughters of a district court judge father and a politician mother, they are an all-American family, on the surface. Behind the facade, each sister has her own dark secret, and that's where their differences begin. For Kaylee, she's the misplaced focus of Daddy's love, intended for a mother whose presence on the campaign trail means absence at home. All that Rayanne sees is Daddy playing a game of favorites, and she is losing. If she has to lose, she will do it on her own terms, so she chooses drugs, alcohol, and sex. Secrets, like the ones the twins are harboring, are not meant to be kept, from each other or anyone else. Pretty soon it's obvious that neither sister can handle it alone, and one sister must step up to save the other. But the question is, who? Another absolutely awesome book. Then we have, and this one I just read it, and I just put a review up on it, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. And like I said, I will link reviews in the bottom so you can go, read more of what I thought of it. But the one thing I have to say about this book is the pictures. I don't know if you guys can see those, but the pictures throughout this book help tell the story. So you are seeing pictures at the same moments that the character in the book is seeing the pictures. So, says, it all waits to be discovered in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, an unforgettable novel that mixes fiction and photography in a thrilling reading experience. As our story opens, a horrific family tragedy sets 16-year-old Jacob journeying to a remote island off the coast of Wales, where he discovers the crumbling ruins of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. As Jacob explores its abandoned bedrooms and hallways, it becomes clear that Miss Peregrine's children are more than just peculiar. They may have been dangerous, they may have been quarantined on a deserted island for good reason, and somehow, impossible though it seems, they may still be alive. A spine-tingling fantasy illustrated with haunting vintage photography, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children will delight adults, teens, and anyone who relishes an adventure in the shadows. That was another thing that I loved about this book, is that these are real pictures that he actually gathered from 10 different collectors. So I thought that was very cool. Next book is also a book that I didn't think that I would like, because I don't like chick lit, and I thought that's what this was, and it turned out not really being. 20 Boy Summer by Sarah Ackler. Loved, loved, loved this book. The back says, according to Anna's best friend Frankie, 20 days in Zanzibar Bay is the perfect opportunity to have a summer fling. And if they meet one boy every day, there's a pretty good chance Anna will find her first summer romance. Anna lightheartedly agrees to the game, but there's something she hasn't told Frankie. She's already had her romance, and it was with Frankie's older brother Matt just before his tragic death 1 year ago. Beautifully written and emotionally honest, this is a debut novel that explores what it truly means to love someone, what it means to grieve, and ultimately how to make the most of every single moment this world has to offer. This book really surprised me. Loved this book. The next book I also finished reading just recently. This also is a nonfiction. This is Tweak, Growing Up on Methamphetamines by Nick Sheff. This is a very gritty book, a very dark book, obviously all about drugs. It says, Nick Sheff was drunk for the first time at age 11. In the years that followed, he would smoke pot regularly, do cocaine and ecstasy, and develop addictions to crystal meth and heroin. Even so, he had always felt like he could quit and put his life together when he needed to. It took a violent relapse one summer to convince him otherwise. In a voice that is raw and honest, Nick spares no detail in telling the compelling, heartbreaking, and true story of his relapse and his journey toward recovery. And I also have, his father wrote a book, right here. Beautiful Boy. And I've had this book in my collection. I have not read it yet. And it says a father's journey through his son's addiction. So this is from his father's view. And I didn't even know that when I bought Tweak until I read on the back, here. It says, read the book everyone is talking about. The Other Side of David Sheff's New York Times best-selling Beautiful Boy. And when I read that, I'm like, wait, that sounds familiar. I'm like, wait, I have that book. So, yeah. And then the last book that I recommend for 2011, and this one is a book that it's more of a reference book. And I started it in 2010. I haven't finished it yet, but I wanted to add it because it's a really, really good book. It is Heaven by Randy Alcorn. And I had to have this book. And all it is a bunch of questions and answers, all about heaven. It is just, and Randy Alcorn is a very well-known Christian author. And his writing is very, very good. This it has, of course, it's broken up into 3 different parts. The first part is a theology of heaven. So like section 1 is realizing our destiny, and section 2 is understanding the present heaven. Section 3 is grasping redemption's far reach. Section 4 is anticipating resurrection. Section 5, seeing the earth restored. Section 6, celebrating our relationship with God. Section 7, ruling on the new earth. Some of the questions, I'm not going to go through every question, but some of the questions are like, can you know you're going to heaven? What is life like in the present heaven? What will it mean for the curse to be lifted? Why is resurrection so important? Part 2 is questions and answers about heaven. Section 8, what will the resurrected earth be like? Section 9, what will our lives be like? Section 10, what will our relationships be like? Section 11, what about animals? And I found that very interesting. Section 12, what will we do in heaven? Some questions in those sections are, will there be space and time? What will our bodies be like? Will we eat and drink on new earth? Will there be marriages, families, and friendships? Will animals, including our pets, live again? Will heaven ever be boring? And then in part 3, living in light of heaven. You have reorienting ourselves to heaven as our home, anticipating the great adventure. And then you go into Appendix A, Appendix B, then there's notes, there's selected bibliography, there is scripture index, name index, subject index. So I found that just very, very interesting. And then, of course, when he writes the answers to these questions, of course, he always refers back to the Bible, of course, different verses and stuff like that. So yeah, this is just a great, great reference book. A great reference book. Obviously, it's not meant to be read cover to cover. You can skip around in it. I actually bought this book this past year, but I started reading it. I probably got it from the library, even in like 08 and stuff. It was published in 04, 05. But after my aunt passed away, I had to buy it then, besides so many questions. I always have questions, but I just really had questions, and I just was seeking answers. And this is just, I've read a lot of different books regarding heaven, God, all that stuff, and this has been my favorite one that I found in regards to just answering questions. And in the format it's written, it's just a lot easier for me to understand in that. So, so yeah, so those are all the books, the 11 books I recommend for 2011. All of them I had 5 stars except for Tweak. I believe I gave that 4 stars. I might have upped it to 5. I truly can't remember, even though it wasn't even that long ago. It was like, what, a week or 2? And then, like I said, in the bottom bar, I will link all my reviews or my thoughts. They're going to be linked back to Goodreads. So, and that's it. I can't wait to see if anybody else does this list, and just see what everybody else has on theirs. Alright, you guys, take care. Bye.